Hello and welcome to another edition of WELLBODI, coming to you from West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. Coming up in this edition.
It's very important. Hepatitis is a very deadly virus. I've seen the destruction it did to somebody. So when I heard of this, I have to come and do it in order to be ascertain my status.
It does not show on the face. So that when some people are carrying hepatitis around and they didn't know, but by the time they find out or by the time they become symptomatic, they're already having liver problems.
Currently, for hepatitis B, for chronic hepatitis B viral infection, there are an array of drugs approved for treatment and management. There are 7 of them.
In this program episode, we zoom in on the silent killer, hepatitis, its causes, the different viruses that make up the type. Is there a cure for hepatitis and prevention? Plus some health news. To stay with us. Thank you everyone for joining us, and special thanks for listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM Lufa County, and in Ghana on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi. Let's welcome our listeners on our partner radios on PAD FM 95.1 Savannah region. And in Nigeria, we welcome our listeners on Al Baraka Radio 97.5 FM Bauchi. Now, generally, people know very little about viral hepatitis, a disease of the liver caused by 5 different viruses. In fact, most of the 400 people with chronic hepatitis B and C, the most serious forms of viral hepatitis, don't know they are infected. This enables the infection to go unnoticed and undiagnosed until the virus has caused serious liver damage. World Hepatitis Day is commemorated each year on the 28th of July to enhance awareness of viral hepatitis, an inflammation of the liver that causes a range of health problems, including liver cancer. So this year's theme is Access for All, Prevention of Bleeds as the Global Standard of Care. It will interest you to know that viral hepatitis continues to claim thousands of lives every day. Now, statistics in sub-Saharan Africa place hepatitis B as the most frequent and dangerous, with a prevalence rate between 8% and 18%. As a consequence, West Africa is a highly endemic area. This is why the emphasis is placed on vaccination. Back here in Senegal, hepatitis B and C places a significant public health burden on the population. Findings reveal that hepatitis B is highly endemic in Senegal. Comparatively, hepatitis C is less endemic, but many individuals are still affected. In Senegal, recent studies have assessed the burden of viral hepatitis B and C with a prevalence rate of 8 to 9% for HBV and 2% for HCV. Fortunately, Senegal has made significant strides in reducing the incidence of hepatitis B due to the introduction of universal hepatitis B vaccination for newborns and the introduction of hepatitis B vaccine for children under 5 in the expanded program on immunization EPI. The global seroprevalence of HBsAg has decreased from 17% to 9% over the last 2 decades. Let's take you back to 2017 now, where the Ministry of Health and Social Action here in Senegal launched a major program for the prevention and treatment of viral hepatitis. It initiated the development of a 5-year strategic plan for viral hepatitis. The strategy covers the 5 hepatitis viruses A, B, C, D, and E. It focuses on hepatitis B and C due to their large public health burden. Now let's shift gear to Nigeria, where the country has a prevalence rate of 8.1 and 1.1% for HBV and HCV among adults aged 15 to 64 years respectively, according to the Nigeria HIV/AIDS Indicator and Impact Survey. These results are included in a February 2023 report by the World Health Organization, WHO. But let's hear more as we join Usman Omar in Abuja, as the country's Ministry of Health is taking the awareness to the streets.
About 20 million Nigerians have been infected with hepatitis B or C, and these occurrences are due to the very low level of awareness about these infections. More so, the World Health Organization reveals that in Africa, Nigeria has one of the highest burdens of viral hepatitis. It accounts for a national prevalence rate of 8.1% for hepatitis B and 1.1% for hepatitis C among adults aged 15 to 64 years. Unfortunately, these infections remain underreported, undiagnosed, and untreated. With that in mind, an awareness program was organized, raised on the streets of the nation's capital, Abuja, by the country's Ministry of Health to raise more awareness of hepatitis. This awareness outreach is simply to educate residents on hepatitis in order to persuade residents to test and get treatment for this rather infectious and deadly disease. Paul is here to start his process of knowing his status. First is the test, then the result, which will help these doctors know if what he needs is the vaccine or treatment if he is found to be positive.
It's very important. Hepatitis is a very deadly virus. I've seen the destruction it did to somebody. So when I heard of this, I have to come and do it in order to be ascertain my status.
For organizers of the event, those infected pose a great challenge towards getting these numbers down. Adeye Ajayi is the project coordinator.
Viral hepatitis general has been considered to be a public health threat, and because of since 2016, and following that, member countries have been told to take accelerated response towards ensuring that we achieve control towards elimination of hepatitis by 2030.
Organizers believe this sensitization program will help change this by educating residents on getting tested and treatment. Both Mr. Ganiyu Jamiu and Mrs. Unwegu Chukwulinaka are both doctors at the Federal Ministry of Health.
It does not show on the face, so that when some people are carrying hepatitis around and they didn't know. But by the time they find out, or by the time they become symptomatic, they are already having liver problems.
Sensitizing them and creating awareness for them to know.
As the world marks this year's Hepatitis Day with the theme Access for All, Prevention of Bleeds as the global standard of care, global experts have urged Nigeria to mobilize domestic funds for national hepatitis B and C treatment programs and effectively raise awareness about hepatitis care, focusing more on vulnerable and hard-to-reach populations.
Usman Omar found that report. Now, in Ghana, a group of scientists may have found a cure for hepatitis. Their research also showed that the high cost of hepatitis B management was found to be a barrier in Ghana. Well, here's Professor Mohammed Mutucello, a virologist leading a team of scientists to find a cure for hepatitis.
Currently, for hepatitis B, for chronic hepatitis B viral infection, there are an array of drugs approved for treatment and management. There are 7 of them. In this country, currently, what is largely used is tenofovir. And these are what we call directly acting antivirals. There are others as well, like the interferon base, which are also expensive. Both tenofovir and interferon-based drugs are quite expensive. For instance, the tenofovir that's largely used, the person has to buy it. Then normally they are prescribed together with hepatoprotective drugs, such as Hepatovite. for 6 months. And when we worked out, you would be spending approximately, or at least 1,000 Ghana cedis for the first 6 months. And they have side effects. And so we thought that the government should probably come in to assist us with a clinical trial before this can be rolled out. You know, this is an FDA-approved drug for malaria.
All right, let's cross over now to the Gambia as we speak with medical expert Dr. Juliet Nyami as she breaks down this viral disease for us.
Hepatitis is viral infection of the liver, and it actually starts with an acute onset with symptoms. Most people actually don't have symptoms though. So those with symptoms, they present with their own symptoms like vomiting, diarrhea, fever, and all that. So they can also have cold symptoms because it's viral. They can have cold symptoms like as if they have catarrh or something, So all those symptoms can be seen at the initial stage, and then later on they proceed. So,
what are the types of hepatitis?
Yes, it has types. It has 5 strains. We call them strains. It has 5 strains. And those strains are A, B, C, D, and E strains. And all of them cause liver disease. But then we have differences in their mode of infection, transmission, their severity, and so there are some differences amongst them. So the most common ones are basically hepatitis B and C. And they are the most severe infection when it occurs in people with hepatitis. So if hepatitis B and C are seen, or those people with hepatitis, then their disease is likely to be severe compared to other hepatitis.
Tell us more about the symptoms of hepatitis B and C.
Okay, we are not looking at the symptoms that makes it severe, but then we are looking at the effects on the liver that makes it severe and other systems. Okay, the symptoms are the same. You cannot look at someone and tell that this person has hepatitis B or C or A. So you can tell by doing lab testing. Okay, you do lab testing to see the type of hepatitis the individual has. So it's only lab testing that will tell us the type. So the symptoms are yellowish eye, or skin, urine, darkish, and diarrhea and vomiting, like I said, headache and all that, fever. So the symptoms are the same.
Now, what are the causes of the different hepatitis?
Okay, the hepatitis viruses, like I mentioned, the strains, the 5 strains, the A, B, C, D, and E, they all have different modes of transmission. A is basically hygiene, personal hygiene, okay, has to do with improper or inadequate water supply and the use of dirty water and contaminated food and all that. So we get hepatitis A from those, contaminated water and food and stuff like that. But hepatitis B and C are basically body fluids, okay? It's either transmitted from mother to child, or transmitted through infected blood transfusion, or transmitted through maybe razor blade, and somebody who is infected has already used blade that is used on another person, or tattooing, you understand? So even sexual intercourse, body fluids, exchange of body fluids, anything that has to do with exchange of body fluids will have a tendency of transmitting this hepatitis B and C, which is the most common cause of hepatitis. Yes, D and E, they also cause. D causes very severe hepatitis, but then it's not as common as D and E are not as common as B and C. You understand? So what WHO is looking at, giving emphasis to is B and C. Okay, they work hand in hand. Most of the time, where there is B, there is also C. You understand? So these are what we are trying to vaccinate people to minimize its transmission. So we are not really looking into the others because they are not as common as these. These are the most common cause of premature death and all that. Most hepatitis infections that we are seeing that are leading to chronic severe infections, chronic severe disease are basically B and C. So A is actually resolved, within few days of infection. It's resolvable, and with good hygiene, and people can prevent hepatitis A. So I'm sure you're going to go to the prevention and others. So I'll talk about it.
Can people spread hepatitis without knowing they are spreading it?
Yes, people spread hepatitis. According to WHO, it's about just few percent, about 17% of people actually aware of their status. Someone may have hepatitis and doesn't really present with symptoms, so they're not taking any measure to avoid transmitting to other people. Maybe they will have to use condom, or they would have to abstain from certain things. But because they are not aware of their status, just like HIV, they will do whatever they'll have to do like that, and they will have to transmit it to other people. So, yes.
Okay, so who are those at risk of getting infected?
Yes. We have the groups of people that, or the age group that are at very high risk of contracting this hepatitis is children. Mostly children under 5. Children under 5 is what the WHO is actually targeting to minimize transmission from mother to them during childbirth. So newborn transmission is very high because most women that had hepatitis during pregnancy were not diagnosed. Some were checked, but not treatment was not given. And so transmission is very high, either during the pregnancy or during birth. You understand? So a child can contract it. So a child comes out with hepatitis. If medication is not initiated initially, as the child is born as the newborn, during the newborn age, medication is supposed to be initiated. Tenofovir, all those antiviral medications need to be initiated. If not, the child is going to develop chronic disease by the age of 1. You understand? And a small child like that going with liver failure and all that, leading to death. So it's a concern in those age group. Yes, and also people with HIV and AIDS. People with HIV. HIV actually work hand in hand with hepatitis. You understand? But they are both virus, and their transmission is similar. You understand? Blood, body fluids, contact with infected objects. You understand? So their transmission is similar. If a person has one and uses the same means of transmission to transmit the HIV, there's a high probability that if the person has hepatitis, will also be transmitted to the individual. So these are the age group that have a very high risk of developing hepatitis. But then we have also occurring in other people. Other healthy people also, hepatitis occurs in them. It doesn't mean they are healthy, and they don't show symptoms. So they also develop hepatitis disease, and they can go into all the way as developing chronic hepatitis or cancer, which is the last stage or death of last stage of hepatitis infection. So apart from these high risk groups, it can also occur in other people with severe complications or resulting in deaths.
What should one do if they feel they are exposed to hepatitis?
Before you even get exposed to hepatitis, we ask ourselves, what are we getting exposed to? To say, yes, I'm exposed to hepatitis, or I'm not exposed to hepatitis. If somebody's blade stick is on the floor, I'm not going to take it and use it. You understand? So I won't take it and use it because I cannot tell if an individual has hepatitis or not. I don't have the machine to look at somebody and tell this person has hepatitis or not. So let me not do this with this person. Let me not use this same thing with this person. It is virus and it doesn't really stay long on the outside of the body. But then body fluids, okay, in contact with someone that has ulcer in the genitalia or somewhere else, maybe kissing, through kissing or that, the virus can be transmitted through that particular fluid to the other person. It doesn't mean it's surviving outside for somebody to contact it, no. Okay, we have a particular time frame that the virus can survive on the outside. But then because it is what we call, it actually grows in a cell. Viruses don't usually survive on their own. They grow, they find life in other cells. So outside a particular cell or outside human body, they cannot survive. So they will die. They have a particular time frame that they can survive and die. So if someone uses braid fresh, you will not say because the virus doesn't survive outside, so I'm going to use it. No. That particular braid, it depends on when the person used it. Okay? Maybe it's days. Even if it is days, do not use it to avoid transmission. Not necessarily transmitting hepatitis, but also other conditions. Other infections can be also on the braid. So there's no need to use reused braid or used objects.
So how do one protect, and does this include newborns?
We protect ourselves from getting infected from hepatitis with vaccination. Okay, so vaccination during childhood, newborns are vaccinated. Their first dose during the first 24 hours, and then the next 2 doses later on. Okay, to cover them from infecting themselves. And also transmission can be stopped from mother to child. Okay, so we have prevention of the infection when the mother already have and then the child has. You treat it to prevent further infection. If the child has the virus, it doesn't mean the child is going to develop the disease. No, you understand? So initiating medication very early, it also helps to minimize the rate of infection in the child. Also, the transmission, stopping the transmission from mother to child is by detecting whether the mother has hepatitis or not during pregnancy. So we do test the mothers for hepatitis B and HIV, which is also syphilis during pregnancy, and then we treat it as it's needed. Yeah, and also we make sure that we test people that are suspected to have hepatitis, older people, not necessarily pregnant women, but also migrants, people that came from maybe another country to our country, making sure that all those are tested, all those things, the viruses are tested in them. So we also have a way of expanding the access. Some people don't have access to testing and treatments. So yes, Gambia, we are blessed to have MRC. And MRC is helping with the testing and the treatment. Okay, they have their treatment center there in MRC. They're helping us. So treatment, early detection and treatment also is very important, and it helps prevent the disease developing into liver cancer and other chronic or severe liver disease.
Thank you, Dr. Nyami, for talking to us on WELLBODI.
You're welcome.
That was Dr. Juliet Nyami, a medical expert. If you're just joining us, this is WELLBODI, and we are coming to you from West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar in Senegal. If you're in Ghana, you're listening to us on Royals FM, 104.7 Wenchi, Radio Pod, 95.1 FM Savannah region. In Liberia, we are on Alternative Youth Radio, 98.9 FM Lufa County, and in Nigeria, you can listen to us more on Al Baraka Radio, 97.5 FM Bauchi. We have been talking about the viral disease hepatitis, and here are some health briefs. The Graduate Physician Assistants Association of Ghana says it will not call off its sit-down strike if the Ministry of Health fails to set up a transition board to institute a new body to supervise and manage their affairs. Members of the association have withdrawn some essential services from July 13 over what they say is disrespect and undermining of their profession by the Medical and Dental Council. The president of the association, Anthony Akko, says his members are ready to rescind their decision when the Ministry of Health heed to the call. And that's it on this edition of WELLBODI. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to our resource persons as well as my colleagues for their contributions. We also thank our listeners in Ghana on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi Radio Pod 95.1 FM Savannah region, in Liberia on Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM Lufa County, and in Nigeria on our Barca Radio 97.5 FM Bauchi. For your feedback on the program, please do send us an email to wadr@wadr.org. See you next time and keep staying healthy. I am Imo Edet. Bye for now.